What is going on with the energy lately? I want you all to picture this with me. Picture me, because I told you all that I was moving in my last video. Picture me sitting on a moving box right now with a microphone, and that's where I'm at. I wanted you guys to feel closer to me. Right away, this reading in particular feels very unique, and it's more than just me sitting on a moving box or me spontaneously needing to get this reading out. This reading feels more like a life path read, and I don't get those very often. I need to start creating like tags or something for the way in which these come through, but there's a timeline arc here for your life and your purpose in some way. The who this is for part of this message is very tricky because I don't see this being for everyone. This is for a very small audience. So I think the way that I might have to filter this or sort this through is describing a really unique ability you seem to offer that I don't see many people can do. So it's going to be extremely specific to this very specific thing you do. The only way I can describe this is I probably need to use an example here. You know how artists use references when they're creating art? Like they have some sort of visual inspiration and then they paint or they draw or they create from that. What's interesting is references are controversial in some way. Like some feel if the art isn't created in your head, then you're essentially copying. So they think a reference is kind of like just copying because you didn't fully create that vision in your head. So usually when people think of a true artist, they think of someone who sees things in their head and creates the wheel from scratch. So there's kind of like this unspoken pressure for an artist to create things from their head or have originality in some way, to imagine things without any help, without any assistance. And usually that's from non-artists because artists kind of know you need a reference, you need inspiration. It's very necessary and it's not copying. So this example, I don't think is saying that you are an artist, although you might be, and that might be why this came to me. But I'm trying to explain that what I'm seeing here is a very rare capability of yours that you may underestimate. It's like this reference ability, but for you, for who I'm channeling for today, you take it a step further and it's much more advanced. It's not just obviously making art. It shows through in everything that you're skilled in. It's like you kind of have this unique way of taking pieces, like multiple observations from different forms and like collaging it together to create your own form of it. And I see this like not being consciously known that you do it. You are able to kind of like take complicated things, like say, for example, soft skills like public speaking, and you don't really have to do it. You can observe it enough to become proficient in it. What this really is, this very specific skill, is like you're able to observe multiple reference points and you can create a style of your own in some way. And you may think that this is a common thing. You may think everyone can do this, but usually people have to do the thing in order to gain the skill. Whereas you are very different from what I'm seeing here because you can observe and start at a much higher level because your observation skill is so advanced. So this ability is just like the main reading theme here. Others I see here, in contrast to you, have to practice. They probably feel unsure before they move forward, and some of them don't at all because they know they have to practice it and fail. Whereas you can move forward with confidence because you're kind of like creating archives. You're creating reference pieces that you're putting together from your mind. And I think that that's why you've been able to self-teach. You've been able to rapidly recreate yourself so frequently, if that resonates, is because this isn't common. You don't see people recreating themselves because they have to go and fail, as where you start at a much more higher level of proficiency because you're like observing things in your mind. You have like this very keen ability. So if you're kind of confused why you move forward and recreate yourself so rapidly when others don't, it's because you're really tapped into this ability and it makes you much more advanced and able to like pivot where others can't do that. And so here's what's interesting about this ability that you far underestimate from what I can see here. The world also might underestimate this as well, is obviously with the artist example, some may think that it's copying or mimicking. And I see that kind of like confusing this ability from you as a whole. Like you think you're maybe copying or mimicking, or you're just like faking it until you make it. But really, you're able to like pick up skills much quicker, and you just haven't observed that you do this So overall, the impression of this ability is widely misunderstood because it's more common to kind of like learn something by practicing and failing, whereas you are able to almost meet that thing that you're doing already practiced just because you've observed it in your mind. You've created like so many simulations in your mind through this observation. So you're able to just kind of like jump in more advanced than others. Now, I'm not trying to like hype you up and say that you're a chosen one here. This is just for a very unique type of person that has this skill and might not even understand that they do. I don't think everyone will understand what I'm saying. So if you do, this is a good way to filter the message at the start. If you feel like you have an ability that you cannot really explain, where you teach yourself things simply due to observation and reference points that you seem to have pieced together and you don't really understand, but you've recreated yourself a million bajillion ways in this lifetime, this message is very weirdly for you specifically. Okay, so now that we've weeded out some people, I now have this very unique group of souls that are with me today who do things a very specific way that maybe they haven't even known to articulate until I pointed it out today for them. Maybe they thought that they were just faking it until they make it, but really it's a keen ability that spirit wants to highlight for you. I see a lot of you not realizing that this is a skill. Maybe some of you did because you're like, wow, I'm really good at just recreating myself. Or some of you think that perhaps it's like surviving, but it's very much a skill. I need to emphasize that today. Mentally noting and saving multiple reference points and observing and creating simulations in your head is how you are able to master things so seamlessly. You basically can self-teach anything. And it's the main reason why you're not held down in the way that others are. And you're able to just iterate on yourself and create multiple versions of yourself and reinvent yourself. So I don't know how to say this, and it's not really a bad thing. So I hope you all don't take it that way. But I do have to be honest about what's coming through today is like something you're afraid of is going to come back around. This is very much circling this theme of fear for you. And it's not harmful, it's nothing bad. Now, it's not clear what it's going to be. It's probably specific to you and what you're really afraid of in your specific circumstance in life. When I say come back around, that doesn't mean you're going to be put in this like bad situation and then stuck in something you're scared of. This could be something that you've simply been avoiding that you don't feel equipped for. In the past, it could be something you feel that you weren't ready for. You just haven't faced this fear consciously yet. You're not ready for it. You don't feel ready for it. Maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is really giving like the energy of a solo woman who has been waiting for the last decade for this perfect relationship to travel the world with her because she doesn't want to do this thing alone. She feels it won't be fulfilling. She has her mind made up that it needs to be done with a person, but she's still waiting on that person to come. Okay. That's kind of like the energy. And the reason she's waiting, this person that's coming to mind, is because she's really afraid to go alone. She's avoiding that fact by kind of waiting for this person to go along with her and do the thing, when in reality, the universe is kind of like pushing her to face, why are you scared of going alone? What is the thing getting in your way right now? Maybe this hidden fear of traveling alone is logical. Like there's safety issues, like maybe she feels it wouldn't be enjoyable by herself, but that is the energy here. Is there's something that you're afraid of, that an opportunity is going to come back around and kind of like show itself to you again for a very specific reason. Like it's coming back around to be considered again in a different mindset, in a different way, because you've reached a new level of healing, or you've reached a new ability to see this in a different way. Something that you've been closed off to in the past is now able to be looked at differently. There's something that you rejected from this shape, this thing that you fear, or this thing that you're avoiding. It doesn't have to be that exact thing that I mentioned, but the container as a whole was avoided in the past in some way. And so the reason it's coming back around is really just this new higher conscious state that you're actually able to consider it in a way you weren't before. This might come through not as like, say, let's go back to our example of like a solo woman traveling. It might not come through as like a free trip or something that says, hey, consider traveling again. This might also come through as like an insight or clarity of like, suddenly you're just asking yourself, wait, why am I waiting again? Who am I waiting for? That might be how this comes through. It could come through as an insight, or it can come through as an actual external opportunity to travel. It's going to look different for different people. There's going to be a lot of ways in which this is showing up, and that's being shown to me. Something random that came up too, I don't know how this fits into the reading, so I might have to go into the description, is medical debt or collections debt in general is coming through. I don't know if something like that is going to resurface. I don't know if something there has been avoided, but this could also be that the fear of medical debt is showing something. Like, for example, we might all pay our debt without question, even if the debt is unethical, even if the practice was wrong. And I feel like there's some sort of message in just the structure of paying debt, just to not have it not go to collections just because we're scared of that process. There's something about that, or it could be very literal to your debt as a whole. I'll leave that in the description because I feel like I could talk about that forever. But anyway, so it might come through in the form of insight. It might come through in an external situation that presents itself to you. And you'll know when you feel it, it'll be very clear. The insight will feel like very new. It'll feel like a different perspective. And then if it's an external opportunity or circumstance, you will definitely know, okay, this is what I've been avoiding. That's very clear. It depends on where you are and what your fear is. But for all of you, it's the same. It's not that you're attracting this. It's not that you're attracting fearful situations, or it is 100% your higher self is carving this for you specifically for your highest path. The higher self doesn't usually get involved in things like this very often. So this is a very important crossroads here in the energies. Some of you might feel like a fearful situation coming back could be a bad thing depending on what you're scared of and what you resonate with when you hear that. But I think this message is to kind of remind you that whatever comes through, whether insight or this opportunity, it's for your highest good. You're too close to see that at the time, perhaps, that it presents. But when you look back, you'll be able to see that it came through specifically to push you into something else. Ultimately, the purpose of this thing, this shape, this opportunity, this insight, is to kind of get you out of this hermit or comfort space that you've been in far too long. I can see here that you're feeling that the edge of this space, like this hermit space and this comfort space have healed you. It was very important, but now you're feeling it being unsettling. You're feeling it kind of confining you in a way. And that is kind of your higher self already starting to take action, already starting to make it a little bit uncomfortable because you've outgrown this container at this point. You might be feeling claustrophobic. You might be feeling it's limiting you, and that is for a reason. So hopefully at this point, you are all not hearing this as like a bad message where some terrible situation is just going to force its negativity and badness on you and you're just going to be scared perpetually. No, nothing horrible is going to happen. Nothing is going to doom you. In fact, this is a very positive message I see here. It's just going to be presented in a way that might shake or rattle your sense of control. I think Spirit wants you to have this foresight here. Spirit wants you to know it's important that you zoom out while it's happening to see that there's a higher reason here, because it might get foggy inside if you don't maintain that perspective a little bit. This scary or fearful situation that happened, it's just pushing you. It's pushing you to do something that is important for your path, something that you've been avoiding to some degree that you're meant to do. And the reason you've been avoiding it is because it's so important to your path. Oftentimes, I talk about polarity a lot. I talk about oppositions, and it is what we are the most scared of that we need to lean into usually. And so you're at this place now where you've healed in this hermit state, in this like comfort zone, and you're able to face this fear with new strength that you wouldn't in the past. And so you still might have a negative reaction to it. You still might not feel comfortable, but it is definitely your time to face it, to reach a new degree of energy, to reach a new path. And there's a huge message here about how important this is for you overall in your life path in what I mentioned earlier, since I can see like this timeline arc for you. Some of you may have strong fears about being alone that's coming through, or you did in the past, and you're healing that. There's a lot of avoidance that happened with this feeling of being alone. I think that that's why the solo travel example came through, is there's healing that's taking place with that huge fear of being alone that you did in this comfort space. Being alone is significant here. Like, it's important to the skill I shared earlier at the beginning, this very rare thing that you have that most people don't. The ability to reference things is strengthened by your alone time. And that's kind of why it was so scary for you at the beginning of your life, or maybe it is now. There's some sort of friction here in tapping into this ability as a whole, because when you do, when you are embracing being alone, this ability is much stronger. You're able to process things much faster with others not being around blocking it. So this very specific ability, this reference, this observation, this ability to recreate yourself, it gets harder for you to do when you're surrounded by people. It kind of dims that ability slightly. And so maybe you haven't been able to recreate yourself when you've been around people that kind of have sucked your energy in the past, or when you've been scared of being alone. And that could be your confirmation. So however this shows up for you, right? This thing that you're scared of, it could be encouraging you to be in solitude in some way, or the opposite, since being alone is emphasized here. Maybe you've spent a lot of your life alone and now you're being encouraged to be around people to kind of fine tune that skill. But whatever the fear is, that's kind of what you need to be leaning into here. But it's sort of encompassed in this theme of solitude or surroundings of people. That's very important to how this ability continues to develop and your life path with this ability. This ability is very important. I don't know if I've stressed that enough. Is there's something really important about your ability to observe and recreate something, use reference points to create something important. And so there's a note here that things will be magnetized to you that aren't a reflection of your current frequency. This is kind of weird, I think, but maybe it relates. Is we all know about the law of attraction, I hope. And in this case, what's being shown to me is it's too simplified for you and your ability, for your life path. Your life path is going to have some challenges that are drawn to you. And that's not because you're an energetic match to difficult things. Like we may think with just using the law of attraction that if you magnetize or attract difficult situations, that means you're a lower frequency. And that is not the case with you. It is much more complicated for you because you're not at a lower frequency. There's an active player that's moving pieces for you. Your higher self, unlike most, is helping you do something specific with this ability of yours. So you might get more difficult, more lower experienced things, but that doesn't mean that you're showing that. And that's very clear here. You're at a very high frequency, at a very high level of energy. It's just your higher self is more of an active player than most. And it's moving things to bring out this ability for you, bring out this reference observation ability. The only way that this ability, that this, what should we call it? This artist reference ability. I really have no words, no terms that could put it in a box, but it is brought out through difficulty. It is brought out through these scary situations, some fearful situations that you have to lean into. It's meant to unlock this skill in new ways and keep growing and developing it until it gets to the point to where you're able to use it for the specific purpose it's meant to be used in. Something about facing your fear or what you're really scared of here helps consciously align you to the higher path to use the skill in its wholeness and its fullness. And I see you've been practicing with it in the past, but once you're coherent with it, once you're able to lean into these things that are scaring you and all parts of yourself, not just the good parts, also the scary parts and the parts that you don't like to acknowledge, you'll be able to fully use this gift. I mean, really, gift is the only word that I could use here. Is it really is a gift. Not a lot of people, if any, can do things like this. So really, in other words, you're not manifesting bad things. Bad things are not coming into your life because you're at a lower frequency. In fact, it just means you're growing. You're getting more conscious, and your higher self is now seeing that you're able to deal with these difficulties, deal with fear, deal with these situations. And all that's going to do is help you really tap into this ability more. That doesn't mean that you're going to perpetually be in difficult situations. It means that they're just there to move you into a higher state, into a higher timeline. They're not there to stay forever. They will be very temporary. So hopefully I made that clear, is like nothing is coming that's going to set you back and forever. It's actually coming to move you into higher alignment, into higher consciousness, into better opportunities, into more specific ways to tap into this gift. So it is a very specific message, but you're going to be able to use this ability and change something so much larger than you can actually imagine at this time. It might feel like things are happening to you and you're not in control, and you really won't be able to view this until you can look back on it clearly. You're going to be able to apply this gift, this ability to something really big and to something really purposeful. And I know that you feel unfulfilled at this time, but it's really just a preparing state to put you on that path to do this. Welcome to episode 10, the big double digits we are in today. Today, I think we should talk about overconsumption. I don't know why, that just came to my mind right away. So that's what we're going to go into. It's probably because I'm sitting in this empty place with boxes and I'm just thinking about that. What I feel from a lot of your energy most of the time is some of you are very deep minimalists and others are very neutral to consumption. Whoever I call forward in this space, it would make sense that you would all be very aware of your consumption habits. That seems to make sense, I would think. So it's very rare that I'm going to have someone here in my collective that has consumption issues. However, if they do have them, I think that they're at the very least going to be aware of that fact and wanting to be different and noticing it. So the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because I'm very aware of consumption, especially my own recently as I'm downsizing. I talked to you all about my moving venture and how, I don't want to say chaotic, but how just revealing it is to your habits as a whole. And you guys shared your experiences with me. And a lot of you guys talked about something that seems very similar to my experience. Like you underestimated how much stuff you've accumulated, because we all don't really think of ourselves as consuming until we look back or we're able to see it in a different light. It's interesting because the downloads I was getting months ago were talking about shedding material items. I was getting a lot of things a while back that kept saying to shed items, that kept coming up. And I think I made that clear in my messages, but maybe not. And I haven't gotten those specific callouts again, but I think there's something really important happening in the energetic weather that I'm forecasting about going into this next year with less stuff. That still seems very important, although it's not being called out at this current time. It's just very important going into the year with less stuff. Now, items, I'm sure all of you know, but I'll say it anyway, is items hold energetic weight, right? So like when you shed them, you're kind of releasing past versions of yourself. Sometimes physical items can hold energy from the past. And so this next chapter for me is really embracing minimalism in another step, which is funny because I've always been very minimalist. I've always lived under my means. I've had to do that because the work I do isn't really profitable. So instead of focusing on money, I focus on purpose. And usually there's only two real ways to go about living in our society is you can make more or you can spend less. And sometimes you can live in between, but if you don't want to focus on money, if you don't want to be a part of the rat race, then the answer is spending less and living more minimally. And why am I rambling about this? I just went on a full tangent here for so long. I didn't even say, hey guys, this is what Salt Talks is. Nothing. I just started talking about so really I'm saying all of this. I'm going on this complete rant is because this is where my personal focus has been. This is why I've been unable to fully focus on this channel. I'm downsizing again, and I'm getting rid of about 90% of the already small amount of things I had before. I'm acting like I acquired so much clutter, but really I didn't have very much, and now I have even less. I'm mentioning the new year energy. I'm mentioning going into the new year with less things. There's a lot of stress right now in the collective about money, love, self-improvement. And so I guess I'm kind of sharing how I live unconventionally. Like it's not very common. You hear about minimalism. It's not very common. You know people who do it. So I want to help those who are struggling with money, especially during the holidays like this, as consumption is the main reason money issues probably occur. And we can not get into overvigilance. You shouldn't go into survival and, not live life. But my answer isn't to focus on making more. It's just to continuously adjust how much I'm spending and how much I'm holding on to. And obviously I have empathy, and I'm not saying that that is a cure to all problems, especially in today's economy. I'm just saying that there's something really, really freeing about not being attached to my possessions and going through these stages where I just release everything. and either start over or pivot. And I know some of you shared similar experiences, and I love that. I love that we're connected in that way, in the same way of not being too attached to comfort. I feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, take it with a grain of salt, is the more we hold on to possessions, the more we hold on to comfort, the more we become trapped in how we have to maintain that. So like, for example, me as a reader who doesn't focus on monetizing my channel to the utmost extremes. If I was really focused on comfort, I would have to do that. I would be trapped in that perpetual cycle of making money in a way I don't feel aligned with. And so my answer isn't to do that. My answer is to do the opposite, to just make myself uncomfortable. I don't know. I'm just kind of sharing this to you guys so you guys know more about me. If you're new here, hello, welcome to episode 10, where I just went on a complete ramble about minimalism, but I promise it's not always like this. This is just maybe this one episode. You're probably also wondering, if you're new, what this even is. This is just me in the best way I know how to share a little bit about myself, to comment back to you guys, because I don't respond to comments. I maintain energetic neutrality, and that is a little jarring to some people who are used to it. So this is kind of my way in which I show that I definitely read everything, and that I really care about you all and reading your comments. I just protect the space here. So anyway, that is my experience. That is the reason Salt Talks exists. Maybe others of you are learning to balance this lesson of spending versus making, but both sides are difficult and have their struggles. And it's kind of a matter of coming to terms with what you're willing to sacrifice. And I have a feeling, I have this premonition that the upcoming readings are really going to be, especially coming into the new year, are going to be focused around financial means, are going to be focused around this stress I keep feeling from the collective about finance, about money. And so I guess I kind of wanted to share my situation, what I do, so you guys can feel more close to me and also just know how I deal with it. Please keep leaving comments, keep nudging me if you felt this reading was weirdly specific. The only reason why I can do that is because I am insane about protecting the energetic space here. I created a way to work around maintaining it, which is through me ranting on Assault Talks instead of just liking a comment. So leave your comments, keep nudging me, especially if you want future readings to be more specific for you. Trust me, I feel every single nudge that I get, always, and I love you guys so dearly, so much. Cheers, friends.